Very good afternoon, all of you. Today, you are welcome in Inhouse program, and today's program is promoting mental health. And our resource person is Jitendra Kumar. So, in promoting mental health program can affect. Very good afternoon, all of you. Today, you are welcome in Inhouse program, and today's program is promoting mental health. And our resource person is Jitendra Kumar. So, in promoting mental health program can affect the students' energy level, concentration, dependability, mental ability, and optimizing hindering performance. Research suggests that depression is associated with lower grade point average, and that polarity, depression, and anxiety can increase this association. The school environment is an ideal place to deal the burden of addressing mental health needs. Not only does the school offer a simple and cost-effective way of reaching youth, but it also a convenient place where mental health can be linked with other aspects of health, such as physical health and nutrients and with learning. In student life is a golden age of life is childhood. Once which never come back. So be serious what you have lost, but be careful for the fostering I have. We all try our best. So today I would like to welcome Jitendra Kumar for in-house training program for promoting mental health, students' energy level, concentration, dependability, mental ability, and optimizing hindering performance. Research suggests that depression is associated with lower grade point average, and that polarity, depression, and anxiety can increase this association. The school environment is an ideal place to deal the burden of addressing mental health needs. Not only does the school offer a simple and cost-effective way of reaching youth, but it also a convenient place where mental health can be linked with other aspects of health, such as physical health and nutrients and with learning. In student life is a golden age of life is childhood, once which never come back. So be serious what you have lost, but be careful for the fostering I have. We all try our best. So today I would like to welcome Jitendra Kumar for in-house training program for promoting mental health.
Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon to all teachers present here. Myself, Jitendra Kumar, PGT, as a resource person on the topic promoting mental health. Today, we will try to know what is the benefits for just keeping our mental health very fine and what are the reasons that affect our mental health. It is well said that there is no man without mental health. In present scenario, we see that the people are just facing many types of problems, and these all types of problems just affect our mental ability and mental strength. If our mental strength is very much fine, then we can cope up with the situations and we can perform better. Not only the not only the youngsters, students also are facing many kinds of mental issues. In present scenario, parents are just giving more pressure to the students, and in this pressure, they have to perform better. These things somehow just affect their mental health. So we should try to know what are the reasons and how can we just make our students out of these kinds of issues that can really affect their mental health as well as their future. So we will try to understand about all these things. In the first slide, here you can see that mental health awareness presentation. Really, we are just going to present something that will really help to boost our mental health, the reasons that affects our mental health, and what are the steps that can really achieve us to get our mental health at a very high level. So, in the next slide, the aims of this training will be what is mental health, how space impact on our mental health, impacts of anxiety, depression on people going to work, promoting mental well-being in the workplace and look after their own mental well-being, and how to support staff to various organizations for mental health. So these all things will be discussed here in detail, and you will come to know about these all things at a very significant way. So, what is mental health? In the next slide, you can see what is mental health. It is well said that a person is said to be healthy if he is physically, mentally, and socially well. If a person has no mental health, then he cannot be regarded as completely healthy. Okay, so mental health is very much important for today's life. Here you can see that mental illness are health conditions involving change in emotion, thinking, behavior. Mental illness are associated with distress, problem functioning in social work or family activities. Really, whenever we have any mental issue, what these things change in our day-to-day life. When there is a issue of mental illness, then we are just facing some kinds of things that can really hurt our emotions. Our thinking style change, our behavior change. Okay, so these things are some signs that comes with mental illness. So mental illness can be regarded as a very harm thing for the persons that living in this society. In the next slide, again we have definition of mental health. Mental health influences how we think and feel about ourselves and others and how we interpret events. It affects our capacity to learn, to communicate, and to form, sustain, and relationships. It also influences our ability to cope with change, transition, and life events such as having a baby, moving to new house, experiencing bereavement. So here we are just focusing about the students mainly because we are teachers and we every day go to our classrooms and we see that many children are having some kinds of problems. So how can we recognize that our students just having some problems, having some mental problems? How can we recognize these things? So in the next slide, we are going to learn about these things. That is recognizing students with mental instability. Means we can say that a student who was performing better, his behavior was good in the class, he was doing well, but suddenly you see some changes in his behavior. What are those changes that really can trigger some symptoms that you can understand that he is really having some mental issues? These things happen in the class. It can happen to the age of any group. Okay, it can happen in the students of classes 4 to 5, 9 to 10, or in youngster or in old age. It can happen everywhere, in every age. Okay, so some points that can really make understand about the students having mental issues. If you see any student just having temper nature, means whatever we speak to him, we are just asking the question politely. Sometimes he can answer very in temperament way. Okay, he can give the answer very vigorously. You can just you can't believe that why he is just saying the answer in a very anger way. What is the reason behind it? So, if you are also focusing that you are just talking with the student very politely, but his answer is not that much good. Answer usually that can be a sign that somehow he can have, not surely that he can have some mental issues. Something is just disturbing him. He can have some problems. Okay. Next thing you can notice in the student, persistent sadness. Not all sadness is just a mental illness. Not all sadness is depression. But the sadness that lasts for more than 3 weeks. If any students or any man has a problem of sadness that he always be in a sad mood for longer than 3 weeks, then he can have some mental illness. Okay, do unusual things. The students who has some mental illness will always perform some unusual things that he used to do but is not doing in correct way. Means the things that he always used to do, those things are not he doing. The things he is doing just apart from those all things. He will always do some unusual things. Can start crying without any reason. It is also a sign of mental illness. A person, if he start just comes near you and start crying at sudden, then it can be a reason of mental illness. The next one is social withdrawal. If any student faces mental illness, he will try to cut himself from the groups, from the society, from the friends, from the family. He will try to be in alone. So these are the signs. Self-harm feeling. He will try to harm himself. He can try to do suicides. He can harm himself. These things are the signs of mental instability. Sudden change in mood. Sometimes he is very happy. Suddenly he becomes very angry. Sometimes he is happy. Sometimes he can become very much in different mood. Can just cry. Change in eating habit. Mental illness also affects our eating habit. Whenever we are in stress, you can notice that whenever we are in stress, we don't go for eating as usual, as we used to do. Our eating becomes a little, or sometimes your eating can be very much higher also. So stress affects these things. Your eating can be a little, or your eating can be very high. Okay, your eating can go abundantly. Trouble focusing. Students who is very much good at study, but when you are just asking some question, you are just teaching him in the classroom, he will have trouble focusing. He can't focus in very good manner. Means if he is very much, he is very much eligible for understanding everything, but if he is not getting those things, means he can have some mental issues. Degradation of academic performance. Degradation of academic performance somehow also can be an indication that he can have mental illness. Not always, but sometimes it can happen because if a person is just facing the mental illness for a very long time, means for 3 months or 6 months, then of course what his academic performance will decrease. So these things are also signs. Avoiding schools and friends. Students who is not coming to school always, he must will have some problems in family that can just trigger his mental health, and this can really affect him. So avoiding schools, friends is also a sign for that. So these all are the just symptoms or some points that you can see in any student just facing mental illness. Okay, mental instability. So these things can happen. Okay, so these are the recognition about the mental instability. In the next slide, we have what are the reasons. We have come to know that how we will find. We have come to know how we will find that the students have mental instability. We discussed about those all points in the last slide. But in this slide, we will try to know what are the factors that really affecting. The factors are poor academic performance. If a student is performing always very poor, his academic record is not good, that time that students can have really some mental illness. He can feel very much low. He can have negative feelings. He can think that I'm not just like those all that they are all performing. I'm just below them. I'm just below than my friends. So poor academic performance can really affect their mental health. In the next point, you can see stress among children. Today, in this present scenario, students are also having some stress. They have the stress of completing their syllabus, they have the stress to complete their homework, they have pressure of their parents, they have some more types of stress. So stress also affects mental health. It is a really very bad thing for mental health. Next thing is family disputes. We see in many families there are many quarrels between husband and wife, between some more members of family. These things really affect the child. Child starts thinking that my family is not that much good as my friends have. I am not going to get a better environment in my family. So these things really create some kinds of mental illness or can affect their mental health. The next one is away from any loved one. We see that children are very much attached to their parents, brothers, and sisters. If somehow their brother has to go somewhere away for the study, for the higher study, that time that his brother can feel that my so nice brother is not with me, he has gone somewhere else, and I am having problem. He will not feel that much joy. He will not take interest in doing any work, and it will really start to triggering his effort. When something starts triggering efforts means he is just having any kind of mental issues. Sudden harassing incidents. Incidents means somehow students can have many kinds of incidents that really affect them. Just like we can say that if the students got any accident and that accident affected him for more than 6 months or for longer, that time he just cut away from himself, from the society, schools. So these things can affect him. Humiliation is also a kind of thing. Whenever we see in the class that if there is any student and if he has committed any mistake, we try to humiliate him. When we do humiliation, he start feeling just below than other students. That I just got any kind of just I got any kind of negative things from my teachers. My teacher said like this, and he start thinking that really uh, I can. His moral gets down. Okay, so humiliation is another thing. So it's very important to take importance of these things. Next thing is sexually harassment. Sometimes it's happened that any students, boys or girls, can be in any incident of sexually harassment, that these things really affect them very badly. Their emotions, their feelings, their behavior totally change. So these things affect long-term bullying. It is a very bad thing. We always in the class that any student try to call his friends by nickname and always try to humiliate by bullying again and again for long time, for months, 2 months, 3 months or higher. These things really increase the violence moment in their mind. There was an incident in my locality that there was a grandmother in our locality. She used to bully to a very small child. His age can be more than his age must be 12 to 13 years only. These students were, you can just think that what that boy did. The boy murdered that lady, that old lady. This was the thing, just because of bullying. So bullying is the thing that really affects very badly to the mental illness. You are just saying for the fun, but you are just joking. But really these things affect their mind, their temperament. This thing creates violence. So never try to we should never try to bully any person, or if any students try to bully other students in the class, we should try to stop him for doing this. There are the poor health and physically challenged. We can see some students can be physically challenged in our school. They feel downtrodden in this classroom. They feel that I'm not as much able to do things as my friends. So these things really affects them. Being physically challenged can create problems, can create mental illness. So these things are here. We should try to always understand and keep focusing on these things in the classroom. In the next slide, how can we help this? We can know that what are the reasons for poor mental health, what can really affect the students, what are the signs, what are the symptoms. But now we are trying to learn how can we help the students who are just facing mental illness. What are the steps that can really helpful for the students. At first, you will have to give interest in the particular student. We see that if any student is mentally ill or he has some mental instability, then he will not say anything. He will talk very much less. He cannot talk more. That time, if you go to him and you will ask what happened to you, he will not say to you. At first, you will have to build trust. And how trust will come? That you will have to motivate him. You will have to show that you are really going to help him. Then a trust will be built and he will speak to you. Without trust, he is not going to say you anything. You will have to create trust. You have to talk him very politely, softly, now, when he starts talking, he starts just elaborating the problem to you. You will have to listen him very attentively and carefully. Whatever he is saying, whatever he had problem, what is the reason? If he can say that my parents quarrel very much in the home. So whatever he is saying, you have to listen those all things very carefully. Next point, do not obstruct while speaking. If he is saying anything, you don't have to say anything while he is saying anything, just he is explaining anything. Because obstructing can really stop him to saying whatever he used to say. Okay? Means if he had to say much more, he will not say that much. So do not obstruct him, complete him whatever you want to say. Once he is complete, then you will start talking your voice, your words. Okay? Support him with good nature behavior and action. You have to support him with your good nature behavior and action. Your actions should be in very much favor of that student or that person who is really facing some mental illness. Ask their parents to seek medical help if necessary. Once we have known that he has some mental illness, means something that hurts him very badly. So if it needs, then you must talk to their parents, and also if necessary, we must say to ask him to seek medical help. Okay, sometimes it is necessary. Sometimes it happens that whenever he come, see, he just explains everything. He just offers everything, whatever he has. Then he feel relaxed. We really see in our life when we have some type of stress, we find such type of person that can really listen to us very carefully. The person we see those kind of person that we really believe. If you find any friends, any family member on which we believe much more, then only we are going to explain about our mental stress, whatever we have. Without belief, you will just be in a kind of just GP. You will not try to explain anything to anyone. You must find any person that will really listen to you, that really cares you, that really believes you. So these things are very important. So these are the things related to the students. Now in the next slide, we have some columns. You can see here mental health model. There are four columns. One is of healthy, reacting, reserved, and ill. Healthy mental health means he will be calm and steady. His behavior will be in very much peace. Okay. Normal fluctuations in mood means his mood will not change sudden. Means we can see that a person is just happy and we just start talking, he suddenly become very angry. This is the sudden mood change. It should not be happen with a normal person. He will, when he is happy, next time he will also be happy. In the for the long time, he can be also happy. His mood will not change very often. Okay, he will be fit, rested, in control, physically, mentally, and emotionally. He will perform better. His behavior will be good. He will be socially active. He will participate in every action of the society. If there is going to be any kind of puja is going to happen in our society, he will participate in those things very in a high level. Means he will participate in every social work, whether it is a matter of any kind of worship, any kind of donation for the any society, he will be always acting on those things. Better sense of humor, relaxation and recreating, confident in self and others. What about reacting mental health? Easily agitated, angered, frustrated and tired, difficulty focusing, nervous, impatient, vigilance, problem with daily functioning at homework. With injured mental health means somehow his mental health is really affected. He will have persistent anxiety and sadness, angry reactions, sleep disturbance, hypervigilance, severe deterioration in daily functioning home. And in ill mental health, you can find the symptoms like excessive anxiety and fatigue and sadness, regular panic attacks, angry outbursts, severe memory lapses, significant sleep disturbance, avoiding withdrawal, indicating indication of suicidal thoughts, intentions, etc. In the next slide, we have meet your happy chemicals. Mental illness can be by many reasons. The main reason in this life is stress. Stress really affects our mental health very badly. Stress, humiliation, bullying, these things trigger our mental health illness. But what are the things that really keeps our mind very well? You can understand like this that in every vehicle you see there is a engine, okay, and that engine of that motor, that vehicles work better when it has engine oils, okay. When we have engine, but engine works better when it has engine oils. Same we have about mind. Our mind is just like engine, and the hormones is just like engine oil. If there is a lack of any kind of hormone, you will become mentally ill. So I am just telling you something about the hormones that is related to our mind. You can see here about the hormones dopamine. Okay, it is the hormone that releases in our brain. And what does it do? It helps to feel pleasure, satisfaction, and motivation. If there is a lack of dopamine hormone in your brain, you can't be self-motivated. You can't feel that much pleasure. You can't feel much more emotions. These hormones really help us to understand about the pleasure. We can feel the emotions. We can say that if somebody feels any kind of love with anyone, then he has some kinds of good feeling. That feeling is just come by the help of dopamine. Dopamine is responsible for that feeling. So dopamine is very much important. The next thing is serotonin. Serotonin is also known as happiness hormones. Serotonin, the happiness hormones, is responsible for keeping us happy. If you think that without hormones, we have, if you are just watching any comedy movie and you think that without serotonin you will laugh, not possible. Serotonin will, if there is a low level of serotonin, your happiness will go at very low. Okay, serotonin is the hormone that really keeps us very much happy. So these are the happiness hormones. It is also known as happiness hormone, serotonin. Some person, if he is just having depression, then he has given the medicine of serotonin. Okay. Then we have oxytocin. Oxytocin is also a kind of hormone that affects human behavior. It is very much important. Sometimes you can also say that when you pregnancy, if any lady is going to give birth to any child or baby, that time nurses also give the oxytocin injection that make the delivery very normal. Okay, so that oxytocin is a kind of hormone that also affects our behavior. In the next you can see in endorphin. Endorphin is a hormone that reduces our stress and improves our mood. Whenever somehow we have stress, you have you can see that somehow there is an incident that keep you stressed. You become in stress. Okay, you get stress. That does that stress persistent for a long time? No. That stress goes away after 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, after 1 day or 2 days. So what helps to reduce the stress? The hormone endorphin helps to reduce the stress. Somehow there is also hormone melatonin. Melatonin hormone is known as sleeping hormone. Melatonin, here is melatonin, I am just saying you. Melatonin hormone is a sleeping hormone that make our sleeping wake cycle very much fine. Whenever you go for sleeping, your melatonin hormones becomes active. Whenever you just go in any dark places, that time the rod cell of our retina becomes deactive. Okay, and due to this, it sends a kind of transmission to our brain, and our brain forms melatonin, and melatonin makes you feel sleepy. That's why you start when you go to the bed, you start sleeping. Okay, whenever you have to wake up, the melatonin hormone also makes you wake up. So melatonin is also a very important hormone that helps you to give a better sleep. Stress really affects this melatonin hormone formation. When you have the stress, melatonin hormones becomes very less in the brain. That's why you can feel difficult in sleeping. There is also a kind of hormone that is gamma hormones that helps in that really help us in concentration. If you can see that many students have difficulty in focusing whatever we are teaching, there can be some chemical issues. Means the gamma hormones is brain is not that much good. The level that his brain should have that is not that much. So these things really affect the students. But what we need to do with those students? You can say him to do yoga, to do exercise. Doing yoga, doing exercise really increases the gamma hormones in the brain. Also, a study conducted by AIMS suggests that doing or reading Gayatri Mantra will really increase your gamma hormones in the brain. So these things are very much important. When you go for Gayatri Mantra once or twice a day or whenever you get time, it will really boost the gamma hormones level in your brain. It is really boosted by AIMS India. In the next slide, you can see the maximum mental health. There is a graph here. You can see the maximum mental illness disorder problem and minimal mental illness disorder problem. This thing will be discussed in the next slides. Mental health is too often ignored. Really, whenever we see that whenever we go to our parents and say that I am just having some mental issues, means I am having very much stress. I have difficulty in sleeping. I get many negative thoughts in our minds. That time our parents say that it is nothing. Just be happy and do your work. But it is really not good. So mental health is always ignored. In earlier time, people never think that mental health is a kind of health issues. But now we should understand that mental health is a really big problem in this modern era. So never try to ignore a person with mental health. Here is again, 1 in 4 people will experience mental health problems. So you can understand how much serious it is. In everyone's life, you can see that somehow there are time comes when he feels any kind of mental disturbance. It can be longer, it can be for short time, but we all feel these things. In 1 in 6 workers are experiencing depression, anxiety, and stress in 6 workers. So these are data about the mental health. You should also note that you should also notice that in our India, in every 90 minutes, our student try to suicide, try to attempt a suicide. In every 6 hours, our students suicide in India. So this is a very serious topic that we should really consider. In the next slide, we have the stress, the evil of all kinds of disease. Stress. We can have stress with any kind of work when we are not performing well. The stress is the main reason for many diseases. If any person gets diabetes, hypertension, any kind of kidney disease, liver disease, any kind of disease, in every disease, the stress is the main factor. Stress, if there is stress, you will have problem. But what you need to do about the stress, developing stress. The stress is very common, you cannot avoid it. You will have a stress in your work. Wherever you work, you will have a stress. But what you need to do to burst the stress? For this, you will have to do yoga exercise. If you keep doing yoga and exercise, the stress will be burst out. Okay, and it will really not affect your health. But if you are not doing yoga exercise, this stress will sooner or later affect your mental health or physical health. So stress is the main factor for affecting mental health. In the next slide, stress is not a psychiatric diagnosis, but it is a closely related to your mental health. Many persons think that a stress is not a psychiatric diagnosis, means stress cannot be diagnosed by a psychiatrist. Really, stress can be happen to anyone. Any person can have stress. So for busting the stress, we must do yoga and exercise. It is not a psychiatric diagnosis. It depends our daily routine. How much time we give to our health, however we do exercise, yoga, these things really affect us. In the next slide, COVID-19. In recent time, we have faced the era of COVID-19. Okay, this era was the era of mental illness. Many persons in our society, locality, or we can say in our India, or we can say worldwide, got mental illness during COVID-19 because they had the situation of a kind of danger. People used to think that if I get affected by COVID-19, what will happen with me? What will happen with my family? These negative thoughts really trigger the mental health. Some persons think that some person used to work somewhere and when sudden their job lost, these things also created the mental health issues. So COVID-19 was the era when that really affected us, but now we are right now in safe zone so far. We should try to keep follow the procedures that has been given by the government about COVID-19. In the next slide, fear. Fear also trigger our mental health. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions. It can have a very strong effect on our minds and body. For example, if we are caught in a dangerous situation or if we are being attacked. Whenever we have fear, you must have noticed that we are just having negative thoughts. These negative thoughts alter the fluctuations or flow of hormones in our brain. So fear really affects our mental health. We should never try to keep any students in very much fear. We should not keep a such type of environment in which a student has much more fear and is not able to ask a single question while studying. If you have every time, whenever we teach, students must have some problems. But if you create an environment of fear by showing any kind of punishment stick, that time is not going to last and his academic performance will not be better. The next slide, here is also written something about the fear. So we will go to the next. Then after anxiety. Anxiety is very common. Okay, in day-to-day life we see that it is affecting to many persons, children, youngsters, old age persons, and anxiety can happen to anyone. You should never think that I am very much healthy or I have good support, I have very good kind of neighborhood, family, parents, money. These things will really will not affect our mental health. Then it's not that much okay because mental health problem can happen to anyone to any age group. It depends what you do and how you try to come out from these things. So anxiety is a kind of mental illness. It is considered as a very low kind of mental illness. But have you ever asked any person who has faced anxiety? Have you ever just meet any person who has anxiety? It is the worst feeling of the life. Anxiety is really very worst feeling of the life because it affects your everything, your emotion, your action, your behavior, your future plan, your study. It affects everything. So anxiety is a very small kind of mental illness and it can happen to anyone. And the most dangerous mental illness is known as schizophrenia. Okay, it is the main mental illness. But you can see in the very low level of mental illness, people can't face it. People have a very bad experience, very worse experience. So anxiety refers to a feelings of worry, nervousness, apprehension, fear are commonly experienced by people. Means when a person is just having anxiety, he will try to feel worry. He will have some kind of worry. He will feel nervous. He will fear commonly. Okay, so these things happen. In the next slide, difference between anxiety and GAD. GAD means generalized anxiety disorder. In anxiety, you can see that short-term anxiety everyone. Even those that don't have anxiety can get anxiety when confronted with a situation that causes nervousness. And in generalized anxiety disorder, when someone has GAD, their fight or flight system is firing all over the day at low levels and occasionally can pick up at random times. Means in anxiety, you will have some reason. Means at the time of COVID-19, you can feel anxiety because there is a reason of danger, a reason of economical weakness. So you can feel anxiety. But what is GAD? In GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, if a person is facing GAD, that time he can have sudden anxiety disorder. He can start feeling nervous, he can start feeling fear without any reason. So this is GAD, generalized anxiety disorder. It is a very common, it happens with many persons, okay? In the next slide, you can see a lot of panic attacks. In the modern films, you can see that there are many web series comes, many films comes, and you can see that there is a discussion about the panic attacks. It is very common in this modern era. Panic attacks means whenever some person faces panic attack, what happens to them? He becomes very much nervous. He becomes very much fear. He starts breathing very fast. His oxygen level reduces. At that time, we should support that person. Whenever you support a person, you give positive view to that person, that time he can just come out from the panic attacks. Panic attacks can come twice, thrice in a day who has panic attack, and it can be with him for 2 to 3 minutes, okay, or can be longer for some persons. So at the time of panic attacks, if a person feels panic attacks, at that time he should start focusing on different things. There are many ways that really alleviates the panic attacks. Means a person is just feeling that I'm just going to have panic attacks. That time he should start focusing on the things that is near him. You can try to take the name of 10 things that is around you. It will change the action of your mind. You can try to smell 5 things that is around you. This will really change the action of your mind, and this thing really help you to come out from panic attacks. Means you will have to change the center of your mind from panic attacks to your surroundings. This thing is really helpful. In the next slide, difference between panic attacks and panic disorder. To be diagnosed with panic disorder, a person would need to have recurrent and unexpected panic attacks. Wherever it is a matter of disorder, means without any reason, it can happen. Okay. In the next slide, we can see typical co-occurring condition can include, means when a person has mental issues, he can have depression, social anxiety disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, specific phobia, obsessive compulsive disorder, or traumatic stress disorder. What are these? These are all mental illness. Depression is very common. We know that all this, that a person tries to cut himself from the society, friends, and he starts living in a very isolated place. He start himself in a without any person, means we can say that he start living very alone. Okay. What about social anxiety disorder? Social anxiety disorder is a kind of disorder in which a person never try to do any work related to society. If there is a donation is just going to collect in any society for any kind of worship, that time that person who is facing anxiety disorder will not go in that kind of person. He will not go to society. He will not try to talk with 4 or 5 persons. If there is a group of 5 to 10 persons, he will never try to speak in front of you. He will feel a kind of hesitation. This is social anxiety disorder. I have talked about you about generalized anxiety disorder. There are specific phobia. What is specific phobia? Some person can have different types of phobia. Means you can see that some persons just fear of height. When some just go to the 5 to 10 floor, and when you go to the roof of that floor, he becomes very much fear. He becomes he gets fear. The things really affects him. वो मीन्स हम लोग ऐसा करते हैं कि जब कोई बहुत ऊंचाई पर चढ़ता है तो डर लगता है. So these things are here about specific phobia. Next one, obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. It is a kind of mental illness in which a person tries to do some kind of habits again and again. Means a person can have problems related to washing the hands. So he will start washing the hands again and again. After 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, he will always keep washing his hands. So these are the obsessive compulsive disorder. Next one is post-traumatic stress disorder. Means if any incident that is really very much harassing to him, these things really affects him for a longer time. Means we can see that if any person just saw a very dangerous dead body, that time these things comes in their mind for a longer time. So these things are the post-traumatic stress disorder. There are the depression. We have talked about the depression is a very common mental disorder characterized persistent sadness and loss of interest. Depression is very common. You must have heard about Deepika Padukone. Okay, she had depression. She faced a depression for 2 years. She had to go for medication also. Thereafter, he just come out from the depressions. So things can happen to anyone. We can talk about the Rock, the Hollywood actor Dwayne Johnson. Okay, he has also gone for the depression. It is very common. We can talk about the Honey Singh. He has the mental disorder also. He had he had also kind of mental disorder that was a kind of phobia. Okay, he also took the treatment for 2.5 years of mental disorder. So these things are very common. You can consider very easily that mental illness can happen to anyone, and there is a treatment that can really make us make us that can help us to recover from those things. So mental illness can happen to anyone, and we have the treatment to come out from these things. But if you want to keep your mind that much strong that you will not have any kind of mental illness, then you must do yoga and exercise every day. When you do yoga and exercise every day, your mental health will be better. When you have good friend support, your mental health will be okay. When you have good financial support, your mental health will be okay. So these things improves your mental health. When you have this kind of things, I can say that you are not going to face any kind of mental illness. So yoga and exercise will really help you. These things are there. We can say that mental illness, why we should avoid mental illness? Why we should keep our mental health very much stronger? Because mental illness are treatable. We can treat it. Okay? But the duration of treatment is long. It is a chronic disease. For anxiety, a person can have to take the treatment of 2 years. For schizophrenia, a person can have to take the treatment of 4 to 5 years. Can be also for 10 years. So these things are very much uncommon. Okay, we have treatments. Treatments are available, but the time of treatment duration is very much longer. Some can come out in 5 to 6 months. Some can come out in 10 to 12 years. So these things are here. So if you want to avoid from mental illness, just focus on your exercise, yoga, and good support of your family and friends. Meet good friends. In the next slide, we have also the topic of depressions. In the next slide, you can see in the next slide, depression. We can see here some common types of depression. That is dysthymia, depressive episode, bipolar disorder, postnatal depression, seasonal affective disorder. Bipolar disorder is also kind of disorder that really affects a person very badly. The Honey Singh just suffered from this disorder, bipolar disorder. It is a sudden mood change. Means sometimes you can feel very happy, and sudden you start crying. So it is a kind of bipolar disorder. In the next, you can see seasonal affective disorder. What is this? Seasonal affective disorder means it happens to the country where there is a less amount of sunlight. Means we can say about the Norway or those countries where there is a very lack of sunlight. Means those country comes in those tropic region where the sunlight is not enough. Due to lack of sunlight, a person can have seasonal affective disorder. You can see that whenever there is a monsoon, means we see in the generally in the cold season. तो देखते हैं कि जब कभी मौसम काफी ज्यादा ठंड का मौसम होता है, धूप 5-6 दिन तक के लिए जब नहीं निकल पाता है, तो हम लोग को थोड़ा सा एक अलग तरह का फीलिंग आता है. हम लोग फ्रेश फील नहीं करते. Actually, वो जो है एक शॉर्ट. We can see that light is very much important factor that keeps the hormones of our brain in a very good level. We should try to get the sunlight. Okay, when we get proper sunlight, that time we can just avoid ourselves from seasonal affective disorder. Sunlight is very much important for our brain. We also see in the classroom that when all windows are closed, that time there is a lack of light and the student starts yawning. Overactive in students. This is just because of some effects in the hormones of the brain. So light is very important factor. In the next slide, you can see here depression. Let's talk. Depression, there is when we talk about the treatment of depression, it depends on two things. Some depression just go off by just talking. Means if you find any person that can really listen you very carefully, then the person that you really believe, okay, that time you talk about your stress, your everything about to him very in a very high way. Okay, means you explain everything whatever you have. Okay, so these things really helps to come out from the depressions. And sometimes, if the talking is not enough, that time we have to go for the medication also. In the next slide, you can see the statistics about affecting depression. Now, in the next, you can also see about don't judge or criticize. Here you can see if you want to make your society just away from mental illness, then don't judge or criticize. Never criticize any person. Be patient. Listen to everyone. Learn about mental health. Stay in contact with your good ones. Pay attention and be forgiving. If you forgive someone, then it will really keep you mentally well. Also, some things are also there is also something that will really boost your mental health. That is, you have to do something without any intention. You can see that there are many works. हम लोग देखते हैं डे टू डे लाइफ में बहुत सारा ऐसा वर्क हमारे पास होता है. अगर हम उसे बिना इंटेंशन का करें तो हमारे लिए एक मानसिक शांति का कारण बनता है. जैसे कि हम देख सकते हैं कि जब कभी हम लोग बाजार में जा रहे होते हैं तो पर्सन अचानक से अगर मान लीजिए कि कोई सामान भारी सामान लेकर जा रहा है, उसे सामान गिर जाता है, उस टाइम अगर हम उस वस्तु को उठाकर उसके लिए हेल्प करते हैं, रख देते हैं, तो एक अलग तरह का पॉजिटिव पॉजिटिव पीस हमारे ब्रेन में आता है. These things also really help us for being away from mental issues. Do whatever make you very much peaceful. You always try to do. You can treat to individuals. This can give mental peace to you. You can just buy some chocolate for the student, chocolate for the children for the society. You can just visit some students. You can help any person without any intention. These things can give you the positive peace, and it will keep your mental level very high. It will boost your brain power. So these things are here. In the next slide, recovery. Recovery is about building a meaningful and satisfying life, whether they are recurring or ongoing symptoms of mental health problems. We can have different types of mental health issues. There are many factors that affect our mental health, but we have some treatments, we have some supports that can really make us recovering from these kinds of things, these kinds of illness. Always try to make friends who really listen you, who really trust you, and you also trust you. Your friend circle will be good. You can have many person, but when you are in a mental illness, when you have stress, when you have some serious thinking problem, then you will not find a single person that with whom I need to talk. So try to make such kind of person that will really help you in this kind of situation. Your parents will really always help you. Your brothers, your sister, your family will really help you. If you have some friends, this is really also. In the next slide, self-care, self-assessment care. We should always try to care about ourselves because there is nothing without health, and health is nothing without mental health. So care about yourself, do the things that really give you peace. This will really help you. Now in the next slide you can see tips for good mental health. Eat healthy. When you eat healthy food, balanced food, then these things really helps your body to provide a good mental hormones level. when you eat healthy, your hormone level becomes also very fine. Okay, be active, do exercise and yoga, whatever you can do. It is very much important. If you can't give an hour to your body, it's not going to help you. Enjoy walks with your family and friends. You must go whenever you find any kind of vacation. You should visit some new places because it is said that the whole world is a book. One who does not ever reach only a piece of book. So just walking the new places is really helpful for your brain. Getting 8 hours sleep every day. Getting 8 hours sleep is very much needy for your mind. If any person says that he can manage his life with 5 hours, okay, he can manage for sometimes, but sooner or later he will face mental issues. So must go for the sleeping at least 8 hours in a day. Thereafter, look professional help within it. Sometimes if you think that just talking with some persons is not really helping to come out from the mental issues, then you should go to the psychiatrist. You can consult any psychologist. Okay, this will help you really. Talk about your feelings with someone you trust. Okay, I have discussed about this earlier. In the next slide, we have helpline number. Government has also provided a helpline number 1-800-599-0019. Whenever you feel any kind of mental issues, you can talk to this number. This will really help you. So far we can come across the things that in our classroom some students can have mental issues, our friend circles can have mental issues, any person can have mental issues. But mental issues has treatment. We just need to give support to those persons. If medication is needed, we should also give medications. And if you want to avoid mental health issues, then always try to focus on yoga, exercise, and good friend circle. I hope this session will give something information, had given some information for you people. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jitendra sir. You have described the today's topic promoting mental health in very way, and we learn lots of things by the today's in our training program. One thing is most important for each and every person, as well as student, teacher, and other person also. You should be in a balanced way. Your professional life, your personal life, you have you have to put it in a balanced way. Suppose some students are talking too much about their studies and they are not concerned about their health. On that time, they will also feel such a type of mental pressure. Nowadays, every parents are in the running and education, they are in competition. Each and every parent expect their work to achieve a 90% mark. And they wanted to put pressure on the student. And the student, they feel pressure. They are not able to handle how to get a more score. So this way, the student think that I am not able to study there. For that reason, when the matriculation exam, intermediate exam, and different levels of competition, they will not score. On that time, we heard or we listen and we read in the newspaper lots of suicide committed by the student. It is not a good for the society. We should try to maintain our daily life for proper sleep, proper balanced diet, proper exercise, each and every point we have to focus. So today I we learned lots of things from our educators by the topic of personal mental health. I am very thankful to him. So let's give him every honor.